2011. We have a few procedures that we follow here. I will read the appeal into the minutes. The applicant will then come up to the table, tell us, make a presentation, tell us what they want, why they need it. If you're coming for a variance, it's incumbent upon you to tell us what your hardship is, to give us a reason to grant relief. Any questions? Some of us up here may or may not have some questions. After that point, I'll open it up to the floor if anyone else out there has any questions. First order of business, review and approve the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
From last meeting? Make a motion.
I have, does you have a correction?
You do have a correction?
If I may?
Absolutely.
Or at least a suggested correction. On page 3. The votes taken. There's just two parts that it says under the motion the vote was 5-0.
Which one?
Page 3 under the first hearing.
I didn't print it out.
Oh, I might have
It's
missed.
in your.
Is it in the?
Sorry.
Page 3, yeah.
The vote was 3-2, not 5-0.
No,
That was for the motion.
I think that it's talking about my motion there, and I think what we ought to say there is that I made a motion to
vote on the-
amend to 10 feet, not 7 feet.
No, actually, to make it clear, it was 10 feet and not 14.
For 14, right, okay, right, yeah.
Because we didn't know whether we should vote on the 14 in one of the schematics they gave us, or the
Or the
10
10.
that was in the application.
Right.
So there was a motion to make sure we were voting on the right thing. And
Okay.
that was 5-0. And
And
then we did have a vote on the appeal itself, and that was 3-2. But it's not clear here, you're right. So we'll clear it up.
And on the motion itself, in favor, it was
It was
Gordon.
denied 3-2. Yeah.
It was Gordon, Dale, and Collins. And opposed was
Oh, it's got George there twice, yeah.
correct.
Correct.
Mine wasn't listed on the upper one.
See that?
You voted both ways?
And my second one, last page, page 5, under new business, the North Quinsigamon. I was not included in that. I did not sit in on that. So I'd like to strike my name and add George.
Right.
That's it. Other than that, I'm okay.
Okay, now can I get a motion?
Move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Next. We have one bill that needs to be signed for our next public hearing. All those in favor? Or actually make a motion.
What is it?
What's that?
Advertisement.
Advertisement for the
How
next.
much?
$98.33.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brings us to our first 6:30 hearing. To hear the appeal of Highlands Development Corp., 25 McGill Drive, Grafton, Mass., for variances to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7, Table 2, multifamily residential 1 district, to allow the division of the premises into 2 separate single-family lots upon property located at 101-103 North Quinsigamon Avenue. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 31, plots 4 and 5. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Richard Ricker. I'm an attorney representing the applicant, one of the attorneys representing the applicant, who is seated to my right. John McGill, Jr. Is the president of Highlands Development Corporation, which is the applicant here. If I may, this is a request to split basically a lot into 2. At this location at 101, 103 North Quinsigamon Ave. The history of this particular lot is an interesting one, being in a multifamily zone. Originally, there was a building that had been permitted for this particular lot, which was what the building inspector at the time called a big box. Had a few condominiums in it, and it was intended to be built as a basically one structure. At the suggestion thereafter of the building department, and at that time, a developer came forward and made a request to build 3 separate structures. Now, these 3 structures were to be single-family structures. That was in 2005, 2006. Those particular structures were to be built as houses, but basically would be condominium ownership, type of ownership. That proposal, as all of the proposals in this particular lot, have been born out of the topography down there. As you know from looking at the lot starting at North Quincy dives very steeply down to the water. There were originally 3 structures on this lot. They were very dilapidated. The history of the lot is such that it was an eyesore, it was a nuisance, it had even perhaps someone living in there, if not people, animals were living there. It was a real problem for that neighborhood. Your board at that time granted the applicant his petition to put 3 houses on this particular lot. Thereafter, again, finding out that the topography caused difficulty with placement of new houses or houses that could actually be used on this lot. The developer that came back in 2009 came back with 2 structures instead of 3, and asked your board again for a variance to put 2 structures on this one lot. Now, it's important to note that had the applicant, back when the structures were on the lot, that were the older structures, had that applicant, before he did anything, before he took the structures down, split this lot up, he would have been able to do so as of right. The request that we're asking you to approve tonight, he could have done it as of right. He could have just drawn that line down the middle. I think it's chapter 81L of the Mass General Laws. The fact is that this is a belated request to do something that they could have done from day one. But because they tore the structures down and went forward as they did, therefore our request. But again, this request is born out of a hardship, which is topographical. These houses were repositioned and brought back up the hill towards the street. They found that they couldn't build really the 3rd one realistically in light of the topography, because you're really diving down the hill to get at it and to access it. Also, you'll remember from the previous plans, the parking was all bunched together in kind of a parking lot fashion. This particular plan, with the 2 houses on it, which are presently built, this has its own parking spaces for these particular houses, and for all intents and purposes, looks like 2 single-family houses. We just find that for all good reasons, perhaps, and Mr. Antonellis, who is also to my right, I forgot to introduce him, Joe Antonellis, he's also an attorney representing the applicant. He'll get into that a little bit deeper in terms of what's happened in the financial market that has in part caused us to come before you tonight. As I said, we're looking for this relief as a result of what happened over time here. This is a situation where the 2 houses have now grown out of that big box that then became 3 houses, now shrunk down to 2, and for all intents and purposes, they are set up and should be treated as single-family homes. I have been I've talked with the building and zoning inspector, enforcement officer in town, and she has authorized me to state her position, which is that she feels that if this were allowed, this would make future enforcement for her of zoning issues and zoning enforcement actions, if necessary, much clearer, cleaner, and easier for any enforcement officer to deal with. That's in terms of, usually in terms of accessory uses such as pools, sheds, and things of that nature, and the placement of those things. The fact is that due to the circumstances of the topography that has led to the placement of these houses on this lot, we find ourselves with a financial hardship, which if you look at Chapter 48, Section 10, it specifically says that you can consider financial hardship as a criteria here. It says specifically financial hardship or otherwise. Now, the hardship is born out of the topography, but we have the hardship itself, which is financial, and as much as he can't sell the houses. He can't sell them, and he hasn't been able to sell them, my client, because of the structure of the ownership and the type of ownership interest here. Again, Joe will get into that. I would suggest to you that, you know, the sidelines that we're talking about are all within the property lines. What we're talking about is something, again, that had this been done in the beginning, would have been done as of right, and it would have been allowed as of right. That was pointed out to me by the town engineer. And the fact is that these houses are already built. This is not something that is going to be, this is incidental clearly to just this lot, obviously. And we're not asking for something that it derogates from the intent of the bylaw, because clearly these are for single-family uses, these two houses. And it would be single-family use. It would be residential in nature. It is in keeping with the intent of the bylaw in that particular area. We're not asking to build anything more. Again, these buildings are already built on this lot. So, with that, maybe Joe wants to talk about.
Just briefly, for the record, thank you, Richard. Joseph Antonellis, my office is in Milford. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity. Jay McGill has been a client of mine for quite some time. Jay took over this project, which was basically in midstream by a prior applicant to your board, and has finished up the houses. And what we've experienced specifically is a difficulty in obtaining purchase and sales agreements, because people are having a significant difficulty in getting a mortgage contingency, mortgage financing. And that is directly as a result of the new Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac regulations, which are born out of the mortgage crisis that's upon us now. And unfortunately, as I think all of you know, when the government gets a situation like this, it tends sometimes to overreact. And that overreaction sometimes has a trickle-down effect, and that's what's coming to us now. That trickle-down effect has to do with the fact that when a condominium development is approved, that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are significantly unwilling to lend on units, and FHA as well, where there is not 50% owner-occupied, or more than 50% owner-occupied. So what we have is the inevitable situation that if Jay gets a purchase and sales agreement and sells one unit, we create the condominium, we have to declare it will be a 2-unit condominium. When he sells one, he is not more than 50% owner-occupied. He is 50% owner-occupied. And what that does is it kicks us into a whole nother realm of review. And frankly, I will tell you, as much as it is regulatory, I think it's laziness on the part of the people that are dealing with this, because it gets complex about the analysis that you have to go through. There's a significant number of forms that would have to be, sometimes bonds are required where the developer is required to ensure that the second unit won't be sold to an investor, because then you'd have 50% owner-occupied and 50% non-investor occupied. And again, it seems incongruous that you'd be faced with this with 2 units, but the regulations have come down, and they've been, and when you read, I've read I don't want to bore you with it, and last time I was here, I thought of making a handout to you, but it was just very cumbersome. This is really all related to the problems in Florida and Arizona and Las Vegas, Nevada, where you have these big empty condominium developments that were bought up by investors. There's nobody in them, no one paying the condo fees. And so again, the government reacts and says you must have 50% owner occupied. We can't get that. So what'll happen, people are coming in, they love the units. Jay's an outstanding builder. I think he's anything that he's ever built is is really a showpiece. So there's value in what his product is. But people can't get the mortgage because it's hard to find someone that'll go through the effort. And what we're doing is we're delaying sales, and obviously that is placing a financial hardship on Jay. The other problem with it becomes is that because there are only 2 owners, many of the lenders that will in fact take a look at it are then requiring that the buyers enter in a separate arbitration agreement, so that if there's ever a dispute between the 2 buyers, that there's someone named in advance who would arbitrate that dispute, and then they're both bound by the arbitrator. If you were to split the lots and allow them to have separate and distinct lot lines and separate and distinct ownerships, you take out the arbitration issue. You also take out the confusing aspects of insuring 2 separate buildings under the same policy, because when you declare a condominium, you have to insure all of the area, so all of the outsides of those buildings would have to be insured in a common policy, even though they were separate buildings. In some ways, an old-fashioned duplex condominium is easier to deal with because there is an insurance policy for that. Again, I know you have a busy agenda. I don't mean to be long-winded, but I did want to give you an idea of what brought us here in the first place. Jay's got a great project. He's very pleased with the relief that the board granted originally, and very happy to take over the project. But now we're really kind of stuck with the fact that regulations are really putting us to the point where no one will step up to the plate. And if anybody has any specific questions, I'll try and answer them. I apologize again for being long-winded on that, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background of what we're facing. That's why they're not having sold.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? No? No. Okay, Lisa?
Nope.
I know. When these were built as condominiums, were they granted any special, waivers or special conditions in order to build these? Instead of being a single-family home, were they?
Actually, I did the original permits, Mr. George, and I don't recall any specific restrictions or anything like that. No. As a matter of fact, I think the discussion about condos or not was kind of a loose-handed or loose lips type of discussion during the meeting. And looking back at the minutes, I would say that that's a good characterization. But no, I mean, we just assumed that.
So there wasn't any.
There was no condition.
Okay.
No, excuse me, Mr. Gentleman, but I can tell you that, in fact, a zoning board cannot impose that condition. That is, the form of ownership can't be imposed by a zoning board. I've got that going on now. And you didn't, no, because you knew better. So,
Well, you never know.
Anyone in attendance wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay, there be no further questions. We'll take it under advisement. You'll be notified of our decision.
thank you for the
Thank you very
opportunity.
Thank you.
Our second 6:30 hearing is to hear the appeal of Tony and Vicky Russo, 6 High Ridge Road, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a variance to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7-C in the Rural A District, to allow the construction of an in-ground pool within 7 feet of the rear property line upon property located at 6 High Ridge Road. The subject premises is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 11, Plot 200-13, and I need to recuse myself on this one. Mr. Collins?
Can you please state your name for the record?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Attorney John Revelia. I'm an attorney, and I represent the applicants Tony and Vicky Russo in their request for relief for a variance for a residential swimming pool. Members of the board, we come before you tonight because Mr. and Mrs. Russo are seeking to construct an in-ground swimming pool on their property. The property is located at 6 High Ridge Road in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. The property was purchased by Mr. and Mrs. Russo back in May of 2010 as a result of a foreclosure deed which they received and purchased from a bank who had previously foreclosed on the property. 6 High Ridge Road is in a residential neighborhood on the north side here in Shrewsbury. The specified use and the purpose for the request for the variance is for an in-ground swimming pool. It's our position that it does not affect the zoning district, that it is obviously for residential purposes and not for profit. I'm going to skip to number 4 because I think that your request would be the hardship on this thing, and for us to be specific with respect to the hardship. But it's our position that it's not substantially detrimental to the welfare of the neighborhood. Mr. and Mrs. Russo have gone to their immediate butters in the neighborhood, the 3 people that immediately about them and spoken with them, and there is no opposition. I don't expect at least any opposition here tonight. They were in agreement with the installation of the swimming pool. As you know, the setback requirement is 20 feet, the rear yard setback requirement. Mr. Russo is requesting to be 7 foot from that rear setback lot line to construct the swimming pool. I have brought some photographs. I'm going to ask Mr. Russo to hand them out to you. I know you have a plan of the swimming pool as indicated by the swimming pool contractor who would like to install the swimming pool. Essentially, our hardship here tonight is that when the house was constructed, it was constructed by a predecessor in interest. It wasn't constructed by Mr. Russo, and it was constructed back off the street a substantial distance. As you look at the pictures that are being shown to you, there's not a substantial backyard back there. So to go 20 feet off that rear lot line would, and to be in strict compliance with the zoning requirements, would indicate that Mr. Russo would have to take down the existing deck that's on the property. We're not even sure if we took down the existing deck if he would be able to put in the swimming pool as it's depicted on the photographs that you have and depicted on the plan that you have. So he might be deprived of the use of the property altogether if there's a strict and literal enforcement of the zoning bylaws. The home itself is situated on a flat area that begins to, the grade of the road begins to go downhill. So even if he were to take down a substantial deck on the back of the property, he'd have to construct retaining walls, and it would be at a substantial financial hardship to Mr. Russo to do that. The immediate abutter behind him that would be most affected, if you will, by the rear setback requirement is a trust. I believe it's the David Brown Trust. And what Mr. Russo has behind him, and you can see from the substantial vegetation that's pictured there, is there's about 16 acres of raw and unimproved land down there. He also has a substantial natural fence hedge around the property. And again, the neighbors there is no opposition, is my understanding, for the installation of the pool. So we're asking you to grant the relief as indicated by the applicant. It's our position that it would deprive him of the use of the property. He didn't create his own hardship. It was by a predecessor in interest. It's in conformity with the zoning bylaws. It does not substantially derogate from the intent of the purpose of the bylaw. Essentially, I think the intent and the purpose, so you wouldn't infringe upon that neighbor's land and have the pool too close to that lot line. But in this instance, there is no immediate abutter behind him where we're asking for the variance. The rear setback requirement is on unimproved land back there. And given the fact that the home was previously constructed, the deck that's in its place now, where the home was situated, the topography or the pitch of the land back there, we think that Mr. Russo, or it's our position that Mr. Russo has a substantial and suffers from a substantial hardship, both financial and otherwise. And I'd entertain any questions that you have.
Any board members have any questions?
Just a couple, if I may. Will you be removing any of the trees along the back property line?
Those trees along the back property line are not his. We won't be removing the trees in answer to your question because those aren't his trees. And if you look at those pictures, there's a planter with an orange sticker on it, and that's an unofficial boundary marker there where his lot line goes from. So those trees won't be removed. There have been trees removed from the property, yes. There have been trees removed from the property. There are buffers on both sides of the property and in the rear of the property.
What would the approximate dimension be between the deck and the pool apron?
The closest point's about 7 feet.
So from the deck to the pool will be 7, then the
7
pool,
feet.
the pool width, and then 7 feet to the property line.
Correct.
Give or take.
Give or take, including the apron of the pool, the decking.
How wide's the pool?
I think it's
23 feet.
23
20,
feet.
22 feet.
Okay.
If we were to comply literally with the zoning law, and I don't think we could put the installation of a pool unless it'd be a single lane lap pool, if you will. So it's not that we could shrink the pool, it's not so much the size of the pool, because he needs substantial relief in that he needs approximately 13 feet.
How about the area where there isn't a deck?
There's no room on either side of the house, on the side yards. One side of the house is just driveway, the other side of the yard, there's not much side yard, so it couldn't, you wouldn't be able to include or construct a pool in that area, or certainly not in the front yard. So that's just the backyard as you see it. There's no other place for the pool.
So basically, topography really isn't a hardship here, because the lot is a flat lot.
Well, it is in the sense that if you were to inquire about removing the deck and putting the pool as close to the house as you could, then the topography is such that he'd have to construct retaining walls and things of that nature. So that's where topography comes into play.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about that.
Go right ahead.
In the pictures, I'm not seeing too much of a grade. Do you have an idea of how much retaining walls you would need if the deck were removed, what you have to put there in place?
Well, from this far end to on the deck on the plan, it's about 6 feet from the middle of where the pool is existing. So I would assume that the pool, the wall would have to be probably 4 or 5 feet high.
4 or 5 feet if it were somewhere in here.
Correct, because the deck, if you can see by any of the pictures, the deck is kind of, the one side slopes down, so the deck is up in the air. And obviously, if I brought that close to the house, you'd have to bring up all that area, so that now, because the deck is now gone in the area with the pool is kind of sloping on that one side to the left.
I do have another photograph if you'd like to see it, which may more accurately depict the slope. If you see, at least from that photograph, that one side of the deck, if you look at the bottom of that deck, is pretty close to the grade of the property itself. But to the right side of that photograph, and I know there's brush in front of it, you can see where you can see the height of the deck where it comes up from the posts. So if you look at those posts, to look at the other photographs, it looks like a fairly flat lot. But if you look at that deck, you can see how where the post and the beams that support the deck increase substantially on the right side of the deck.
When you were purchasing this property, did you have any idea that you wanted to put a pool in?
No, not really. I have 3 children. We've never had a pool before. They're 14, 12, and 10, and kind of decided that they want to stay home in the summers, and we don't have a Cape house or anything, so that was kind of something we decided we'd like to move forward with.
No?
Yeah, the land of the Brown Trust, I believe, part of it was sold to one of the sons and was subdivided over off of Blackthorn. And there's also a tree farm down here. There are also some wetlands behind his house. I don't know if he knows that yet. But there is a stream that runs from the heavily vegetated down toward whatever this road is here, I forget the name of it, off of Blackthorn. This will all be developed in a number of years, as soon as Mrs. Brown gives the rest to her son. So I just think that's an interesting thing. But also, you do have an awful lot of water. He's limited as to what he can do in that area.
I mean, I don't know where the water is. Is it delineated on any of the plans here, or is it just
I only know because I
just
walked
by
in it.
say?
I've walked in
I
it.
think every yard nowadays has a little bit of water in it because of all the rain we've had.
Well, I don't know if it had that 8, 9 years ago when we subdivided it, but I will take you at your
But if
word.
it's delineated anywhere that there's wetlands there, I'd be glad to take a look at it and use that in my deliberations.
Very nice.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this petition? Seeing none, we'll take it under advisement and notify you of our decision.
Thank you.
We're going to hold on to it. Okay? Yeah, they're all- Which one is it?
You want to vote on these two? Yeah, okay, hey Lisa, we're going to
Yes.
vote on these two,
Okay,
so you can read, and then Peter will sit.
thank you.
Highlands Development. Any discussion? Any issues?
I have no issues.
Okay.
Who's that?
I was very pleased to hear more argument.
Yeah.
It doesn't change my vote.
What'd you say?
I'm all set.
You're all set? Did you, were you on it the first time?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion?
Move to vote to allow the variance to Highland Development Corporation, division of one lot into two.
Okay.
Second?
There are 3 vote sheets on this one. One is a lot area, one is front setback, and one is side yard setback. I think we can probably do it all at one vote. All those in favor of approving the variances as submitted?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Actually, that's okay. Peter, we're going to deliberate on the High Ridge
Oh,
right now, so if you want to come back up.
I'm going to just state how I feel about the High Ridge Road petition, about the variance for the pool. And my standing is the same as it was last month when we had the pool come up in front of us on Main Street. I really don't see any hardship that's going to keep them from, well, staying out of the rear yard setback. So I myself won't vote in favor of this pool.
Of the same opinion because I don't believe it was proved sufficiently to me anyway that the topography is such that it would be a very huge financial hardship to reconfigure the deck or remove the deck. I believe the grade is over toward the another area of the property. Part of the pool will be affected, but I don't believe it's that great of a hardship, and I wouldn't feel comfortable granting.
I disagree with both of you. I think there is a hardship in the topography of the land. I also think that it is not detrimental to the bylaw in that it does not affect any other item in the area, and I would be inclined to vote for this variance. I am inclined to vote for this variance.
Can I make another comment?
Go ahead, Lisa.
I do feel it could be a detriment. I feel it's our responsibility to protect future owners of surrounding property, even though all abutters were notified. The back property is held in trust right now, and I agree with you, Mel, that it is developable. I don't know where the wetlands are there, but that worries me. There will be a future owner right behind that property, and they may not be happy with that 7 feet, and I'd like to protect them. So I still am not in favor.
Any other board members, Peter?
I don't have a problem with the placement of the pool. Frankly, we allow above-ground pools within 10 feet. And I think an above-ground pool is more obtrusive than an in-ground pool. I think it's really a fault in the bylaw, and I would be in favor of approving the motion, the petitioner's appeal.
I'm ready to vote.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Move that we vote on the variances for an in-ground rear yard setback for 6 High Ridge Road, Tony and Vicky Russo.
Second.
All in favor of the petition for a variance for the rear yard setbacks for the pool on High Ridge Road? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Lisa, actually, we might be voting after we leave, so.
Oh, they want me to.
Yes,
Just offering to do
No,
it,
no.
but, okay.
But we might be voting at the end now, right?
right,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have to keep people waiting. Good idea.
This is not Lisa.
This is, Dale, this is North Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I think it's just one, yeah.
This is Northern City.
And this is Highland. Okay, our first 6:45 hearing is to hear the appeal of Kevin and Kathy O'Reilly, 57 Purinton Street, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a variance of the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 7, Table 2, to allow the construction of a front porch within 42 feet 9 inches of the front property line in a rural B district upon property located at 57 Purinton Street. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 53, Plot 60.
Thank you. Good evening.
Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Kevin O'Reilly. This is my wife Kathy. And the reason we're here tonight is I'm trying to build a small porch and new set of stairs over an existing set of stairs. The first piece of paper that you have is a photograph of the existing stairs. It currently extends out from the house 7 feet 1 inch, give or take a quarter of an inch. The second piece of paper you have is what we're trying to build on top of the existing stairs, and it would extend out 7 feet 3 inches from the house. So, in effect, 2 inches more, or the width of a 2x4, from the existing stairs. And the hardship is the house is placed on the lot 50 feet from the road. It's a very long and narrow lot, and obviously I can't move the house and I can't move the road. So if I want to build these new steps over the existing steps, I need a variance for what in effect is 2 inches. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, Mr. Gordon?
Now, Mr. O'Reilly, if you didn't put a roof on this, you wouldn't need a variance, is that correct?
That's my understanding. The reason that I had put the roof was part of the problems with that I'm having is that's the north-facing side, and the weather just beats the heck out of it. And so by putting a roof on there, I'm hoping to alleviate that, both from a wear standpoint and a safety standpoint.
Basically, you've got a very narrow lot, is that correct?
Yes.
So, there's plenty of land there, well, you've got plenty of land, if it was in another, if the stairs were in another place.
Exactly.
So, the hardship is where you put your front door,
Yes.
2 inches. I have no problem with it.
Okay.
No comment.
Peter? Bill?
I think it's an improvement to the property.
Thank you.
I'm also.
That's how we feel.
Anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, there being no further questions, we'll take under advisement. You will be notified of our decision.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
Our second 6:45 hearing is to hear the appeal of First Shrewsbury Hotel Investments, LLC, 889 Boston Turnpike, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a special permit to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 6, Table 1, to allow an extended stay hotel in the commercial business district upon property located at 889 Boston Turnpike. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 36, Plot 5. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Roger Khanna. I represent the ownership for Shrewsbury Investments LLC. My attorney, Mr. Ricker, I think just stepped out actually. I was expecting him to come back. And you mind if I go grab him?
Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Welcome back, sir.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
So you're client, you might have been better off without you.
I did tell him that.
He's going to give me a refund later.
Are we ready?
Yeah, it's already been read in.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
For the record, again, my name is Richard Ricker, and I'm representing the applicant, First Shrewsbury Hotel Investments, which operates the Days Inn on Route 9 in Shrewsbury. With me here is Roger Khanna. He's the principal of the entity that operates the hotel. He has been before you before. He's been operating there since 2007. He manages other properties around the country. This is the only hotel, however, that they have. This request is born out of a desire to meet what has become a market need. We have a hotel on Route 9 with other hotels nearby on Route 9 offering extended stays. As a matter of fact, this particular entity was offering extended stays. You may have noted that the sign has been covered up on Route 9. As soon as they found out from the zoning enforcement officer that they needed to get a special permit, they voluntarily covered up the signs and did everything they could to eliminate the advertising that was going on. But what they're trying to do is meet a very competitive market and to meet a need in that market. They thought previously that they had a permit because what they did was they came to the town and a few years back, and what they did was they took building permits for 12 units, 12 motel units, and they took permits to refit them for extended stay. They put in the sinks, put in the stoves, the things that were necessary for extended stay. Thought that because they got the permits and built it out and got them approved and inspected that they were all set. But lo and behold, they found out that that's not necessarily the case, that there's another permit they need, which is the special permit from your board. I would suggest to you that this is to assist this particular business. It is a use that is incidental at best. It complements the use that's there. It allows them to be competitive and to remain competitive in what is otherwise a difficult market on Route 9. And it in no way derogates from the intent of the bylaw. This is something that's defined in the bylaw. It's defined under the special use. He's requesting that he be allowed up to 20% of the 100 rooms that he has there, so that's up to 20 rooms. Although that's not the present plan, he would like to have the permit for up to 20%, as allowed, again, under the definitional section in the bylaw. Again, I would suggest is good for business, good for a good local business that we have in this community. I would suggest that this would assist a business that's been consistently a good neighbor. There is no nuisance or other harm that can come of this particular request. They haven't had difficulties, they haven't had problems up there. I would ask that you allow the special permit as they've requested. And of course, if you have any questions.
Just first, your client is aware of the limitations?
Yes.
Due to the
Yes.
change in the bylaw?
Yes, we went through that very carefully. As a matter of fact, when he found out that he needed this, then we
Right.
reviewed the bylaw together.
Okay.
So yes, the
So,
limitations.
right, so your customers can't use it as a mailing address, they can't establish residence?
No residency, no more than 60
Right.
days, no,
Right.
yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Mr. Ricker, where are these units located? Are they randomly throughout the,
I think they're most on the first floor. I don't have a floor plan that has that, but I think they're mostly on the first
but
floor.
are they delineated just in one section of the building, or are they randomly throughout?
They're not even delineated, actually. You wouldn't, from outward appearance, know at all. But that's a,
I know most of them are, if you're looking at the basement from the front,
Yeah.
there's kind of two wings, the left-hand wing and the right-hand wing. They're on the left-hand wing, facing kind of forward towards the
Would
street.
that be where the storage place?
the storage place.
Okay.
Correct, towards the storage place. Yep.
Heck of a view.
Is it? Anyone else?
No problem.
No? Anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this? Okay, there being no further questions, we'll take it under advisement.
Thank you, sorry I was outside.
Like I said.
I'm sorry, Rick.
Our first 7 PM hearing, FOCO Inc., are they here?
I think they're in the Board of
Looks
Selectmen
like
right now,
okay,
so let's
we
move
will
them to the
move
next
to the
one.
second 7 PM. The second 7 PM hearing is to hear the appeal of Robert McNeil III, 679 South Street, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a special permit to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 6, Table 1, to allow a home occupation within a single-family dwelling in a rural A district upon property located at 679 South Street. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 44, Plot 11-21. Please state your name for the record.
Robert McNeil.
Okay.
Thank you very much for hearing this case.
Have a seat.
Sure. My wife and I just moved to town with our family, just relocated. I'm a professional licensed civil engineer in the state of Massachusetts since 1996. Started my own firm in 2004 and basically conducted a home business at our previous residence in Leicester. Again, just recently moved to Shrewsbury. We're looking to continue that here out of my residence. And we are, currently the office is in a roughly 12 by 12 space in the basement, similar to the last setup. And I feel like as far as the zoning requirements, according to the table, that I meet all the requirements for a special permit. It's professional, conducted by the resident of the premises. The use is clearly incidental, and it's secondary to the use as a residence, not in excess of 25% of the floor area. It's roughly a 3,000 square foot colonial house. There's not more than 2 people other than residents on the premises regularly employed. It's basically just it's myself. And there's no detrimental or nuisance type uses at all. It's a lot of plan work and computer work, all inside the house. So generally, no more than a single car if I ever had any kind of client visit, and that's basically it.
Okay, I was going to ask, is that typically not a lot of traffic, no?
Now, most of my business is
On-site?
either on-site or via email.
Okay.
What kind of business, please?
I'm also.
You're all set?
I'm good.
Anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this?
What kind of business?
Can you please state your name for the record?
Yeah.
Sir, could you state your name for the record?
They want your name.
Oh, my name is Bozushi. I'm a neighbor, so I'm wondering what kind of.
Yeah, it's civil engineering. Basically site design, mostly site design.
So you're not, make a bigger change of the lot and anything
No,
like that?
no changes at all.
It's all inside the house in a 140 square foot office. inside.
No, I mean, a lot of traffic or anything.
No.
No.
No. Anyone else wish to be heard? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Karen Gabrioli. I live diagonally across the street at 674 South Street.
Yep.
I've been there for 20 years. Our neighborhood is a country road, nothing close to commercial in anywhere near the area. We do not have sidewalks. In order for two cars to pass each other on the road, you pretty much either have to pull over or go extremely slow so the two cars can pass each other. In the last month, and I was here last week, Westboro has decided to put in a very large development through Toll Brothers, which will consist of about 280 homes. We have the Gleason Street, which is closed down now. We also have the train track, the train station. So what cars are having to do is to go down the other street and go down Arch. So when the train lets out, the construction sign at the end of my street, which closes Gleason Street, has pretty much, there will be a car passing every 35 seconds when the train is out to go up to Walnut Street through. What I think is going to happen is, I used to have, when my kids were younger, a sitter that lived in that home, and I would have trouble. It's up a hill and it's a single driveway, so it's a one-car driveway. I had a lot of trouble backing out. So I know if he has a business run out of his home, that the car will have to park on the street because it's very difficult to maneuver in and out. My concern is with walking, children. It's an area that should not have any commercial zoning at all for a business. It's a very country neighborhood, and with this new construction and the road probably going to be closed close to 2 years after talking to Westboro, on and off while this construction goes on, I think it's going to be a real hazard to the neighborhood.
How long is your driveway?
It's got to be a couple hundred, at least 150 feet. And what I'd like to say, at least to the neighbor, that there is no expected traffic. I mean, very, very limited, maybe once a month, twice a month, I'd have a client come by. There's more than adequate parking in the driveway, and there's certainly adequate area to turn around a vehicle at the top of the driveway.
If we were to condition the special permit, no on-street parking, would that be okay?
That's not a problem at all. There would be never a point where we'd do any kind of on-street parking. The way she described it was exact. There is no place to park on the street and still have two-way traffic, so I wouldn't entertain that at all.
Yes, ma'am?
What happens in the future? I mean, if he sells his home and then it's granted?
It's not. It's a special permit. It goes with the owner of the house. Once he sells the house, if anyone else ever wanted to run another type of business there, they would have to come before us again.
But we also live in a neighborhood that has no zoning for any kind of business run in or around our road. That kind of changes.
It actually isn't allowed by, it is allowed by special permit.
Right, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Please state your name for the record, sir.
Fred Hovnia, 17 Banner Drive. I don't know. When I put my special permit studio in, I had to allow parking for 5 cars off the street.
Each one stands on its own. That has no bearing on this at all.
Okay.
Again, if we can condition it that there can't be on-street parking, then there can't be on-street parking. My other question is, if we put a time limit on it, say a 2-year time limit, and then see what any types of complaints there are, you would then come back to us again within 2 years and see how things are.
You know, I wouldn't have a problem with that if you would waive the application fee.
That I can't do.
Especially, I mean, in this sort of economy, it's
Town needs the money.
I mean, if you feel that is absolutely necessary, then
yeah. And typically, what happens in a situation like this, we would do a time limit. It would give neighbors a chance to see how it is, for you to see how it is. If there's no issues, and when you would come back, it would typically be extended. As long as you own the property. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, there being no further questions, we'll take it under advisement. You'll be notified of our decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we need to vote to continue the second notice again, or we just keep going at 7:15? Keep going. Our next hearing, the first 7:15 hearing, is to hear the appeal of Kevin Bonaventura, 1A Cliff Street, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a special permit to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 4-B, to allow the demolition of 2 existing structures on a non-conforming lot and the construction of a single-family dwelling. Also, 2 variances to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 7, Table 2, to allow the construction of a 3-story dwelling and lot coverage over 30% in a Residence B2 district upon property located at 15 Connor Drive. The property is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 51, Plot 53. Would you state your name for the record, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name, again, is Richard Ricker. I'm an attorney representing Kevin Bonaventura, who is seated to my right. I have offices at 11 Maple Ave. Mr. Bonaventura is a resident at 1A Cliff Street in Shrewsbury presently, and wishes to build a new house for himself at this location, 15 Canada Drive. This was two-phase. We're going to ask your permission to withdraw the request for three-story variance. The reason for that is that we have since filing this application, we have determined that we do comply and come within the guidelines of the 2.5-story maximum height. So for that reason, we're asking that you allow us to withdraw that particular request. So this particular request is for a lot coverage variance. And in this particular respect, there are some new plans in your file, Mr. Chairman, which are the bluer plans.
Yep.
There has been a change as well from tweaking of these plans in order to bring ourselves closer to compliance. The plans now show a lot coverage of 33.9% rather than the 36% that we requested when we filed. Now, just so that we're clear, so we're asking your board to give us lot coverage of 33.9%, not 36. And as I understand it from talking to the town planner and zoning enforcement, we're allowed to do that because what we're asking for is less than what we applied for in the petition that's before you. So to be clear, we're asking for less than what obviously, we've withdrawn one aspect of this, and we're asking for less lot coverage relief than previously requested. So we're looking at 33.9% in accordance with those plans that are with you now. Presently, there are 2 structures on this lot at 15 Canham. Both structures, serious disrepair. I think that some of the neighbors here will bear out that it is an eyesore. I've heard some remarks saying that it's a nuisance. There are 2 residential structures that theoretically could be rebuilt on this particular lot. They're there, and Mr. Bonaventura bought the lot with these structures there. A walk around that lot, you can see the buildings, at least one of them are in severe disrepair, in need of great work. The fact is, though, that Mr. Bonaventura would like to raise these 2 buildings and to build a single residential structure for himself. Now, the residential structure that we're looking at is shown from different angles here on this lower depiction. You have in your files depictions of each of the floor levels, as well as artist rendering of what the house would actually look like as a box on the last couple of pages, I believe, starting with A12. This request is because the house has been extended somewhat. It has been elongated. The house footprint includes the garage. Now, and the garage level is on the second, basically the first level. You have a basement down below that is basically half of the footprint, or a little less than half of the footprint. And then you have the first level, which is living area, but you have just up from that is the garage, which has been pushed up the lot. There's a severe topography, there's a severe slope in this area of the lake. And what's done, and you can see this from these pictures here, the houses step down to the lake, and you can also see the disrepair of the shoreline, all of which would be corrected and remedied if this proposal was allowed. The building that Kevin wants to build, it was elongated and because of the topography. What we find and what we found, and with us tonight is Michael Samra from Troika Architects. He is the designer, so he can address these things better than me, obviously, is in terms of the design restraints and constraints of this project and what led us to this request. Also with us is Carl Holgren from Quinn Engineering, who can address any questions that you may have relative to the topography that we're dealing with here. You have, as I said, a pretty basic topographical hardship here. You got a 27-foot drop from Canada Drive, 27-foot plus drop from Canada Drive down to the water's edge, and a narrow and small lot. The fact is that because of the need to step this house down, you'll note when you're looking at these plans as these folks are going through them with you, you'll note that the garage itself is brought up almost to the level of Canada Drive. That's because they wanted to get it up as far as they could up to that topography. But then if you look at the plans on that first floor level, you'll see that there is really a good amount of wasted space, unfortunately, because you need to step downstairs in order to get into the house itself. So you've got a stairway with a couple of small, I guess you can use them as closets, because you need to step down. So there's a step down there. Michael will also, I think, address probably better than I the need for stairways throughout this house, which have caused it to have to be, you've lost living space basically because of the stairways and because of the topography and because the house steps down basically 3 flights down into the lakeside. So therefore I would respectfully suggest that you have a classic topographical hardship leading to this request, circumstances of the topography leading us to the point where we're requesting this relief. This is clearly incidental to this lot. It is only incidental to this lot. This is the only lot right there right that neighborhood that has 2 houses in this particular situation that has a step down like it does. This request doesn't derogate from the bylaw because we're asking actually to bring us back into one single family home for Mr. Bonaventura to live in. Instead of 2 single-family homes. So we're actually decreasing the use on the lot, although building a larger structure. I would suggest that, respectfully, there is no nuisance value to this. There is no harm, no nuisance, no noise, no other factors that should cause a concern in that respect, and therefore he falls within the 4 criteria of the request that he's made to you tonight. This will certainly greatly enhance the appearance, the value, the functionality of the property, as well as it's born out of, as I say, a classic hardship being the topography. And it will also increase the tax base for this particular lot, obviously. Basically, that is the request, though. I would suggest that this is not unprecedented, however, in this area. Your board has seen fit, because of topography issues such as what you have here tonight, your board has seen fit on at least a couple of occasions that I drove around the neighborhood, and then I came up here and looked at the files, and I saw that there were at least a couple of occasions that you could obviously see that there were variances granted for lot coverage, one being at 9 Canna, and the other being, and that was for 34% lot coverage, and the other being 19 Edgemere Boulevard, which was a 30.9% lot coverage. But that was just from me just driving around that neighborhood and just saying, geez, I wonder if that's, you know, a lot coverage request. So it's not unprecedented what we're asking for. The board has found that the topography did allow this type of request in the past, and I would ask you to do so tonight. If I could ask Mr. Samra to address the particulars of this particular house, if you give us the opportunity, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Michael Samra. I'm with Studio Troika. And as Mr. Ricker explained, we were given quite a challenge with this lot. Dealing with 2 single-family houses on there in such a steep topography, in order to get any amount of living space that's contiguous while working with the site, so you don't end up with a large cut-and-fill situation like you would have, where you really have to tear apart the landscape. We tried our best to work with the landscape and allow the house just to step down with it. So it's really a significant trick to do that. And if you'll see on this picture right here, this is looking from the street towards the right. We're actually only 5 feet away from the lot line there. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure right there. So in an effort to be fair to the neighbors on both sides, what we did is brought the house into conformance on both lot sides, saying, you know, we're going to pull back into today's zoning board regulations and then do our best to work with the front yard setback and the rear yard setback and just allow the house to sort of maintain itself. I think you can see from the floor plans that you have in front of you, and I apologize not for having larger ones, that the house, especially on the first floor, is not a large house. You know, you're talking about a kitchen that's 20 feet by 10 feet, a dining room that's 11 feet by 10.5 feet. These are not enormous rooms where we're building this McMansion-style house that's really overwhelming the site. And even if you look at the living space, the main living space itself, including the stair, it's 27 feet by 15 feet. So it's like, these are not large structures, and I just want to be clear on that. It's a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. And what, besides showing you the structures that are there, I also wanted to show you that this is the view from the different angles. This is the view from the street, this is the view from the lakeside, and these are the 2 side elevations as you're looking at them. And you can sort of see the steep drop-off right here. And the only place we're actually filling is at the very base lake to try and create some kind of yard there at the base. And it's about not even a 15-foot deep backyard in order to get some kind of space. In an effort to mitigate, because Kevin was really adamant about not having a very tall wall at the lake, we actually have a double wall structure right here with greenery and vegetation that's going to be planted in between. So from the lake side, we go up 4 feet. We have a 2.5-foot setback there for plantings, and then we go up another 6 feet. And this is all done very carefully, trying to preserve the actual landscape that's there, soften the edge by the water, and really allow the house to fit into the existing neighborhood. And then finally, I'll show you that we did our best to create a photo montage so you could actually see. This is the existing site right now. You can sort of see the height of the walls that are adjacent to it and flank it, and I wish we had a little bit more because there's some very tall walls over here. But it's just sort of like the line of where the houses are here and how we're sort of staying within that line. This house is much further to the foreground than this house back here. And this shows a section of how we've been moving with it. So this is the main living space. Here is the garage. There's a master bedroom on the second floor here. And in the half basement down here, we have 2 bedrooms and a bath. If you have any other question, I'd be happy to have.
What's the square footage of the house?
The total square footage of the house, as far as living area goes, is 2987 without the decks.
And does that include the garage?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
And another 450 square
Okay.
feet.
But that does include the basement area.
It does.
Okay. And how big is, what's the basement square footage?
The basement square footage is
900,
913
or something like that.
So it's roughly a 2,000, yeah, okay.
Richard, has this gone through conservation already?
It is in the process of dealing with conservation now. And they've had their initial presentation, and they're going to be going back this next month.
Okay.
The one other thing I would give you as a piece of information is that from the mean height to the top of the roof, we're about 31 feet, as opposed to 35 feet above.
Mr. Gordon?
Is this house going to be similar to the one you built on Davis Drive on the other side of the lake?
Well, I don't think it's quite the same. It's a different client.
I know it's a different client, but that was a challenging lot, if I remember.
It was a challenging lot, yes. Yes, it was a very small lot.
They did a great job there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Collins?
Yeah, if I may.
Sure.
Just some dimensional questions based on the Quinn Engineering drawing.
Yes.
If I may. With respect to setbacks, am I correct in reading this that the proposed front yard setback is 26.8 versus 11.1 existing? I'm using this chart at the bottom.
Could I ask Carl Holgren from Quinn Engineering to address your questions?
Certainly.
That's right.
Okay, so we're increasing the front yard setback.
That's right.
Right.
The side yard is going from 4 to 10,
Correct.
That's right.
and the rear is going from 19.7 to 18.6. So in a whole, we're really
Decreasing the setbacks.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, good. Just want to confirm that.
Well, I did have one question, and that is, you were talking about 36% lot coverage.
Originally, yes.
And what accounts for the change?
We took some decks off. We took some deck areas out of the plans.
It was actually
Because deck areas do count in that calculation if you consider vertical.
And it's actually a misunderstanding between Carl's office and our office in that we always intended that the front walkway be basically pervious pavers that are going to bring you up to the front deck and not a deck.
Okay.
So so it's a combination of going pervious and removal of a deck.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this? Ma'am, could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Nancy Owens. This is Christine Anderson. We reside at 13 Canada Drive. We did send a memo.
I have it here, yeah.
And we have had our issues addressed today, both by the town planner and Mr. Ricker. And we are feeling that this is a much better plan.
Okay, so
We are.
you're in favor?
Yes.
Okay, then I do not need to read your email into the record. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, state your name for the record.
My name is Fred Holovnia. I'm at 17, and my house is pretty big and steps up a lot like what they're going to do. And I don't have any problem. I got a lot of trees. If you see any of these photographs, the house next door, I've got tons of trees. I'm 100% in favor of him going ahead with this because what I lived there with the house next to me for so many years, which they had beatniks and murderers. The cops came down with sawed-off shotguns, surrounded the shack. You know.
So you view this as an improvement?
I don't care how high it goes. According to the last court case I did, we had one stipulation, stays 10 feet in from the lot line, and I would request that I planted hemlocks on the lot line years ago, and they solved the water problem, so there's no runoff.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Those were not his tenants, by the way.
And Tracy and Joe Manzello of 19 Canada Drive,
Yep.
right down the way as well, and we back it up. It's really been a mess in there, and we've loved a lot of the property pieces that have been growing up, and these guys are very respectful and have shared a lot of information, so we're behind them 100%.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else?
I would like to.
Just state your name again for the record.
Excuse me, Nancy Owens. This property has been a blight for the 20 years we've lived in our neighborhood next to this. So this is definitely going to be a major improvement.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? It doesn't sound like anyone's opposed. There'll be no further questions. We will take it under advisement, and you'll be notified of our decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our second 7:15 hearing is to hear the appeal of Central One Federal Credit Union, 714 to 716 Main Street, Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, for two variances to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7, Table 2, to allow a new drive-up teller machine, which would exceed the lot coverage in the front yard setback requirement in the neighborhood business district upon property located at 714, 716 Main Street. The property is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 22, Plot 410. Please state your name for the record.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, my name is James Tatro. I work for Thompson Liston Associates. We're here representing Central One Federal Credit Union. To give you some background, the proposal for which we request variances from the board is the result of a federal regulation requiring that banks and credit unions upgrade any drive-up ATMs to be, I'm trying to avoid it, using this as a segue to a punchline of any sort, to be drive-up ATMs to be accessible to the visually impaired. The regulation is intended that a visually impaired passenger have greater independence and accessibility in using an ATM. The credit union has been upgrading other ATMs at the different branch offices. This particular one is by a maker and a model that unfortunately they're told cannot be upgraded. So they're looking at other locations on the site, for putting this ATM, and they settled on a location. This is the entire site that you see here, on a location off of South Street, for which there's enough depth of pavement to allow reasonable traffic movement. We were in front of the planning board for site plan approval, and I believe they agreed that it was reasonably provided in this case, but for which we cannot get the required 50-foot front setback off of South Street. And simply adding this minor 34-square-foot structure puts us in excess, or more in excess, of the lot coverage requirement. So we are before the board asking for variance on those two requirements, and we are not before the board, I would say, voluntarily. It's not an installation which the credit union of its own accord wished to do. Their hands are forced by new interpretation of the of regulations from federal sources. So I'm going to just flip a page here. This shows the entire site, and just shows it in just a little greater detail. Again, the size of the structure is very small. Again, in regard to the lot coverage requirement that we're exceeding, it's only 34 square feet. This sideline of South Street here is, we're only going to be 14 and change feet off of it. This is where South Street was altered for a taking back in 1995 to widen it. It was taken by the town, which is part of our issue with the proximity. I'm going to hand it off to Attorney Joe Jenkins so that he could elaborate a little further on the specifics of the argument of hardship here in this case.
Yeah, thank you for having us this evening. I'm with the president of the credit union, Dave Blackweir. He's been a Shrewsbury resident for many years, and as you know, the credit union has been operating for quite some time at the South Street and Main Street location, and the ATM is an important part of their operation, and it's come to their attention that by March of 2012, or March of 2012, it's required that the ATM be altered in order to make it accessible to disabled blind people. The current ATM structure can't accommodate the width of the new required ATM that's available, that has the feature required by the new regulations. So James at Thompson Liston has taken the site, come up with a plan to allow the traffic flow, taking into consideration all the available spaces at the site, including impermeable and permeable areas. I have determined that with the flow of traffic, this would be the least intrusive area to put the new ATM, for the additional ATM. And of course, the two different variances that the applicant requests, the first one I would like to talk about would be the distance from the street for the improvement. And the requirement is for 50 feet. And because of the taking of the widening of South Street, the taking by the town of Shrewsbury, the setback is much smaller than it would otherwise be. It would only be, I think, 40-some feet instead of 15. So, the area where the proposed ATM is going to be located, although it, by measurement, is only 15 feet from the street, from the actual area of travel on South Street, it's much further, perhaps 50 feet or so, as the regulation anticipates. And of course, the variance, any variance, as this board's well aware, would require a hardship. And just, in addition to the taking of South Street, changing the topography and the size and the shape of the lot, this change in the regulations requiring an immediate, almost immediate conformity to a new regulation is also a hardship to the credit union in order to be able to continue to operate with an ATM as they've become accustomed. And similarly, the other variance that's required has to do with lot coverage. I believe the lot coverage changes only in a de minimis fashion, and
34 square feet.
34 square feet. It changes the percentage, I think 0.03%, if I remember the math correctly. And once again, that we would ask that the board consider this request for a variance due to the hardship of the change in regulations. And also, I believe we would be within the open space. We would comply if not for the South Street taking that affected the shape and the size of the lot. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as best we can.
A couple. The first one is you're taking out the current ATM, which is about the same 36 square feet, and you're going to put a teller's window there with a, whatever they call them, a vacuum tube.
Pneumatic tube, yes.
Okay, so why isn't it just, we're giving you 34 and we're taking 34, number 0?
Yeah, well, that's the way the building inspector, I think, interpreted it. I don't want to speak for Jimmy, but the pad that the current ATM resides on is slightly smaller than the proposed pad for the new ATM, because the new ATM is wider, deeper and wider than the existing ATM. The pneumatic tube unit is a much smaller unit, 2 by 2.5, I think, square, so it's nowhere near the size of an ATM enclosed inside of a kiosk building, like the one we have in that other footprint.
Okay, another thing you mentioned when you were at the planning board was that some of your ATMs can be upgraded and adjusted. This one cannot. You could not move an ATM from another location and swap?
Well,
or is that just too much work?
That's a lot of money.
If I could jump in on that one too, this one is, the island on which this rests is 41 inches wide. All of the new machines, which another gentleman at Central One was going over with us for installing here, were actually 18 inches wider than that. So you were going to have a bigger structure, if you will, a bigger machine anyway, even if you could somehow swap.
Okay. I don't mean to talk badly, but why do they want disabled, vision impaired people to be able to see an ATM?
Yeah, we were just talking about this. The idea is that a person who might be blind could be in the back seat of a car, want to use the ATM. They would have to pass the plastic to the driver, give that person their PIN number, and ask them to do a transaction. At that point, their card is compromised. They could arguably be taken advantage of. I think the regulations is an attempt to stop that potential abuse. That's what we've been told. We didn't have a lot of choice in this thing. It was thrust upon us. And
Have you ever had anything like that happen, where a card was compromised for that reason?
for that reason, I'm not aware of anything happening in our institution.
God bless the government. I'm done.
I'm all set.
You're okay?
Mel asked the questions. I'm all set.
You're okay? Anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this? Okay, there'll be no further questions. We'll take it under advisement. You'll be notified of our decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our 7:30 hearing is to hear the appeal of Sayed Sohi, Post Office Box 1491, Framingham, Mass., for a special permit to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 4-B, to allow the expansion of a non-conforming structure by constructing a second-floor addition over a front portion of the existing first floor in the Residence B1 district upon property located at 56 Howe Ave. The property is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 40, Plot 59. Would you please state your name for the record?
Sure. My name is Rhonda Tawadros, and I'm here to represent the applicant. Unfortunately, he's out of town tonight, so he couldn't make it to be here at the hearing. He applied for a building permit to go up with the structure at that location, and he did get the building permit, and while he was...
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, while he was in the middle of the construction, they already framed it from the outside, and I think part of all the electrical is all open. He was notified by the building inspector that he have to do a plot plan and come here for a variance because the building itself is not conforming. It violates the front setback. So he's not going outward, he's just going
Yeah,
up.
it's actually a special permit. It's not a variance.
Okay, but I'm not sure if you have a copy of the plan.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so the building as it sits, it does not conform with the current zoning regulations, and the addition is just going up. Okay.
So it's a continuation of a non-conforming use?
It's a pre-existing non-conforming, yeah, correct?
Correct.
Going on.
You know my thought.
I do. I'm assuming you have no questions.
That's true.
Okay.
I have no questions.
I just have a couple of questions. I think there's a little history on this property. Can you explain what was happening there?
Okay, what I can tell you is what I have been told by the applicant, that I think they've been there more than 10 years, and when they bought it, it used to be a two-family, and he got a letter, I think in 2004, saying that he's not confirming, and what I was told by him that he did some changes to the building codes and the plumbing codes and all
Made
that.
3 apartments there, right?
2. I was told it was 2. No.
Yeah,
He knows a little bit more.
Raouf Mancarius with Alpha Omega Engineering, representing the client. He bought the property.
State your name for the record.
Raouf Mancarius with
Okay.
Alpha Omega Engineering. He bought the property in 2000, and he bought as a two-family house. And at this time, he received a letter from the building inspector that this house is non-conforming. The building inspector at this time, he came down, he inspected the house, the plumbing inspector came, the electric inspector came. He looked at the whole house, he said everything is fine, but he never received anything from the building inspector, that final inspection. He got the electric for 2 units, all the utilities are for 2 units, even the accessories is only 2 units. And back in, I think in May this year, he received a letter that it is non-conforming and it's still in violation. So basically he converted back to single family right now, and the inspection came, the building inspector, the plumbing inspector, and electric inspector came. They inspected the rough inspection. So now he's only applying to go up with the first floor. He raised it to make it 2-story in one of the units only.
Is this gonna be a one-family house or a two-family?
Yeah, right now it's a single family.
It's only zoned for single,
Yeah, so
correct?
it's
Only
not
zoned for
gonna
single.
be
Yeah.
two-family.
It's not going to be
No.
a family anymore.
Okay, what three-family? It's gonna be a one-family home. That's what that's what we're looking at.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. I still don't know.
Question, how many entrances are there to the property?
I remember there were more than 2. I saw at least 2 when I did the survey, but there is more than 2.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Maybe. But it's only single family right now. It's all converted single family.
Just looking from the street, I saw at least 4.
I saw 4 from the street. Yeah, and I didn't go to the back of the house.
From the street?
At least 2 of the
It's okay.
Yeah, there are two decks from both sides, and there is an entrance from the street, and I think there is a back door also.
There's a patio on the
Yes.
side.
But right now it's only single family.
All right, but for the record, it's just going to be used as a single-family
Yes.
home.
Yes.
Did
And,
all the,
Can we condition it, if we do approve this, to close up some of the entrances?
They're not providing any plans for that.
I understand that,
so-
but can we make that as a condition? You know, if there's 4 to 6 entrances, I could possibly see a front, a rear, and a back. And no need for anything else.
We could condition it that the entrances be the minimum required by building code.
Okay. Does anyone in attendance wish to be heard on this? Now's your chance. Yes, state your name for the record.
Bill Monahan, 55 Highway Ave,
Mhm.
directly across the street from the property. This has basically been a problematic property in the neighborhood for the history of this owner. You know, it was rental property. We've had numerous tenants in that property. Property has not been maintained throughout the history either. You know, everybody here are neighbors as well. I don't want to see this property expanded either, because it's not a owner-occupied property, it is a rental property. My gut feel is, although he's told me it's going to be a living room, I interpret that to be another bedroom. As I said, you know, we've just really had an eyesore in the neighborhood. This property has been in that condition since Memorial Day when we started this project without the proper, you know, permits as well. So as I said, you know, what we've seen, you know, the fact that he's converted into a multifamily house, there are 3 apartments, so I don't know what condition it is at this point, but there were 3 apartments in there, 2 in the downstairs, 1 in the upstairs. You know, he's done certain things. He actually ripped out the catch basin to create a driveway. I don't know if that was permitted by the town as well. I know it gets a lot of downflow, you know, from drainage now through that as well. So, you know, as a neighborhood, we don't want to see that expanded as either.
Okay, thank you, sir. State your name for the record.
Paul Van Slyke, I live right next door. Over the last dozen years, I've watched him drag old roofing tiles down over, I believe there's 3-4 town wells down at the bottom of that hill, and dump them into the woods. I've seen him dump oxygen saline tanks down into the woods, which I've called the fire department on. I've seen numerous things go on over there over the last years. I've watched him kind of overtake a small piece of my property, which pretty much abuts the side of his house, and build a carport on it without any permission, a garden bed, and he's like taking it from me, and I've made it clear to him numerous times that this is my property, and we've even gone to the trouble of planting trees there to show my property line, and it's been an ongoing issue. I'm the one who came by one afternoon on my way home from work and asked him if he had a permit to do all the work he was doing. Because me and my wife just went through this about a year ago, and we went through all the proper channels. We had all the paperwork, all the people come by, and he told me that he didn't. And it was like, well, right there you know that that's going to be a problem. Somebody's doing the work that's either not licensed to do this work or not insured to do this work, or basically has no skills to be able to be doing the work that they're doing. And how do they know by adding on another floor to an existing roof line that that building's capable of sustaining that extra weight and the physics involved with that? You can't just
Yeah,
change
that would be
the roof line
taken
and
care of.
put a box on top of it.
There is
expect it to
there is a permit
sustain.
application now, so that would be taken
Right.
care of by the building inspector.
Can I ask, can you just?
Yeah, could you just state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm sorry, Pam Van Slyke, and I live next
Yep.
door, and there's just additions coming out everywhere from this place. Is there,
The lies have been continued.
it's not just the lies, it's the condition of the property. You can just keep building out and putting things on top of things and
And
adding on to the
neglecting
back.
Right now, the permit before us is for them to go straight up on a section of the house.
But do they have
Without-
plans?
Is that the
Without
intent for
encroaching
him
the
to sell
setbacks.
the house? That's
I can't answer that
beautiful.
question.
That's
That-
what I'm saying,
yeah.
that's great, because I'm sure we'd all like to see that. But I mean, it just seems to me we're gonna get right back into trouble again.
I just think that
He's
the
done it time and
condition
time
of it,
again.
the way it looks, the aesthetics, everybody's taking care of their yard, and he keeps adding on and building up and expanding over, and do we
Not
just have to live with
maintaining
it?
it.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, state your name for the record?
Yes, Mary is here, so I live at 60 Howe Ave, right next door. We've lived here since 1964. The house is always, well, it was a dairy in the very beginning. When we moved there, it was owned by Doris and Roland Burtz. They sold it to the Lagerns, and they sold it to a lady who took care of the state children. When Mark, or whatever his name is, bought it, that's when it started turning into apartments. And that's when all the changes were made, so it always was a one-family home. So what he said that it was a two-family home is not true.
Okay, thank you.
And we've also had a great deal of problem with garbage, the lawn grass, just a multitude of problems. It's a terrible eyesore. And we don't know if he's going to rent it to somebody, if he's going to be responsible for the yard, or if the tenant is supposed to be, the people that they rented to never took care of the yard, and eventually he would come and mow it down when it was knee-high. But it's been a terrific eyesore, and it hurts the property value of everybody in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else?
Are there any, I'd like to know, are there any plans on how this is going to be constructed?
Is there a floor plan?
Yes, the building inspector should have him, because he got the
Yeah.
permit for that.
The building inspector should have already approved all that, because the builder permit that I have here, it says to construct
No, I'm looking
A
for a
second.
floor plan.
a floor plan.
A floor plan. What?
Or
The
a
building
design of some
inspector.
type?
No,
Yeah, the building inspector should have that.
no, it would be in my file.
It will be in your
It
file?
would be in my file, and it's not.
Yeah, this is the building permit that was
Yeah.
approved. That's when he started constructing it, and
Is it?
he's almost 70% finished.
It would not be in that file if it was, if it's in a separate building permit file.
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay.
But padding is not.
It's usually required with the
You
building
haven't seen
permit.
anything?
Or elevation plan.
Okay.
Okay, I have it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's an expansion. How many square feet? I didn't see it noted on the permit.
It's 15 or 1.25 by 3 point. It's about 100 and
1.25 by 10.
about 150, 150. So.
150 feet.
Okay.
And it's a living room?
Yes, and the roof is there, and the whole framing is done during the permit time. Yeah.
What type of roof will we put on that?
It's already there. It's shingles, regular shingles.
And is it a flat roof? Is it a
No, just
gable roof?
No, yeah, sloped roof, just like
To match the
existing.
The
When I went
existing
to look,
roof.
I don't know if I saw a roof on that.
There's
It's pretty much a level, slightly inclined. But the roof line of that house is originally just a peak. And they, look at the back of the house and you see what I mean.
It's
So
about
what I
3
saw
to
is what
12
it's gonna be
foot.
like?
Yeah.
Yes, it's about 3 to 12 slope roof, and it's already the shingles are there, the framing is done, and then when he received the stop work condition order, he had to wait.
What kind of siding do you have on it?
There's no
The siding
siding
is not
yet.
done yet.
It's not done yet.
What
the
do you
siding.
plan to put on it?
I believe to match the existing siding in the house.
I'm confused as to why you have a building permit and a stop work order.
I think what happened is when he pulled the building permit, the building inspector was not, or didn't think that he needed to get a variance, or I guess you would call it a special permit. Okay.
I can clarify a little bit.
Sure.
When he applied for the building permit, it was not known that the area to be expanded was in the front yard setback. This building is non-conforming in terms of a front yard setback, so that permit was granted, and then when it was found out that the expansion was going to be within the front yard setback, it required a
Right.
special permit, so it's a retroactive special permit request.
Okay, and did they file any plans with the?
I have not seen any, but I can't say that there hasn't been any plans filed.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone had their hand up? State your name for the record again.
Bill Monahan. I mean, right now, what happened when, we saw this going up, several of us came up and talked to the building inspector, and that was at the time found out that it was non-conforming that it's a two-family, and they issued this work order stop at that point. Right now, it's only framed 2x4,
Right, yeah,
covered by
we've seen,
plastic, so there are no walls. The roof is still, it's not shingle at this point. They did some work on it recently, but not over that area, so that's still just a rough frame. One of the things that concerned us the most, I knew the woman who lived on the first floor. At the time, upstairs was vacant, there was one tenant on the first floor. As he started his construction, basically there was a small pitched roof over the room, which I think originally was a porch on the first floor. That was turned into a full room. It was her bedroom. As he took the roof off, I questioned the construction there to start with. Basically, she said she found a foot coming through her bedroom ceiling because, they just took off, started working, stepped through, came through her ceiling, ended up with roof leaks and everything else in the process. So nothing's been done from what we see, to code or in a, proper fashion.
The whole stop work order thing.
Excuse me? I would like to see a set of plans on this. So if they're in the office, continue until the next meeting. Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to say?
The whole stop
State your name for
work
the record
order,
again.
Paul Vince, next door. The whole stop work order thing came about from the fact that he had started work and had no permit. That's when.
Correct. Yeah, we know that.
And
Yeah.
then-
Yeah. Okay.
And just Cliff, and that was about
Yes.
in May, did I hear that?
He got the
The
permit.
stop work order was, what's the date of the stop?
May 31st, and it states that because the building is in violation.
Right.
of
But
seven-
in March
Yeah,
28th,
Yeah.
he received the permit in March 28th, and then he started working on the project.
We're going to vote to continue this to our next meeting, and we would like to see a full set of plans, of a floor plan and what it's going to look like when completed.
Okay.
Make a motion to continue this hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Can I ask just when is the next meeting? Because with the weather and it's
Next meeting is
The house is open.
November 29th.
November 29th.
So this will be 6:30 PM.
Correct. So it'll be the first hearing at 6:30.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to, you can't
The
say.
other
you don't-
recourse is
yeah,
for us to
it's
vote
close.
to deny it, which would
Okay.
probably be what would happen
All right.
if we don't continue.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
We have it on time on the clock, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
It means 100 days, yeah. The 90 days. And because you've already held
Thank
the
you.
hearing and
Back to our first 7 p.m. hearing. To hear the appeal of FOCO Inc., a.k.a. La Limo, 224B Cherry Street, Shrewsbury, Mass., for 2 variances to the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 6, Table 1, to allow a garage and repair shop as well as sales room for automobiles and motorcycles, which are uses not permitted in the limited industrial district upon property located at 224B Cherry Street. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 48, Plot 34.
Karen Polito of Polito Development Corp. We are the owner of the property where the applicant is currently situated. Approximately 2 years ago, FOCO, also known as Lelemo, applied for a livery license, and the Board of Selectmen granted that license. They have been a business operating out of the former Airborne DHL facility, and I gave you a copy of the aerial showing the industrial park where this building is situated at 224 Cherry Street. And it's a good visual because the industrial park, although it is a park, each building sits on its own lot and it could be owned by a different owner. It just happens to be that Polito Development does own the entire industrial park. The DHL building was a difficult building to re-tenant. It's a long, narrow building. It has overhead doors on both sides. And at that time, when we were able to identify Lelemo as an appropriate tenant, we were very pleased that they would occupy the space. They do that as of right. They've been an excellent business, compatible with the other uses in the building, one of which received a variance from this board. It's Bay State Chair and Dance. And for 2 years, you've been operating side by side in a very compatible manner. And also during this 2 years, this is a business that's been able to grow and develop a presence here in the central area of the state, and has been a very reputable business and one that's contributed a lot to our community. Tonight, the request is, and Jen can speak as the general manager of the business, a little more of the use. But the overall use is a livery service. We were fortunate to appear before the Board of Selectmen tonight. I apologize for the delay. We had to endure the presentation about Asian longhorn beetles, and you should be thankful that you did not have to. And they were able to grant the Class 1 dealer license that will allow Lelemo to expand their business, which will really be seamless to the public. It's a business expansion that will operate within the current space that is leased to them by Polito Development Corporation. All of the vehicles are located on both sides of the terminal, and that won't change as part of the request for the variances requested by this company tonight. So the hardship continues to exist because this building is what it is. It would cost an awful lot of money to tear it down, rebuild it, or be able to change it in such a way to have a different types of uses. And ironically, the use is allowed under the overlay district, which was pointed out by this board when you issued the other variance for the space adjacent to this. And I don't see any change in the overall operation that would increase traffic or have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. So I hope that you will look favorably on these requests, as it allows a business to grow, especially in this economy that is very difficult, and do it in a way that's really incidental to the overall operation, which is the livery service. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jen Brugliera to describe the request in more detail.
Hi, I'm Jen Brugliera. I'm the general manager of Lelemo Limousine Service. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to enhance our current offerings within our own industry. So this is something that we're looking to do within the livery industry specifically. Our vehicles are manufactured basically Missouri and California. There's only one manufacturer in Massachusetts. Our vehicles are then shipped across the country to New York dealers, and there's, I think, a couple of dealers down in Connecticut. And then from that point, people like myself have to go to these dealers to purchase our vehicles and also to have them repaired under the manufacturer warranty of that coach builder. So this is a very niche market, and I've been in this industry since 1986, and this is actually one of the biggest problems as an operator that we have. Once we take delivery of these vehicles, even if they're brand new, lights go out, ACs blow out, DVDs don't work, things start to fail. And with our livery service, we can't send a vehicle out to a client unless everything works the way it's supposed to work. So one of our biggest problems has been finding local repair shops that are knowledgeable about our vehicles and our industry that can fix them quickly and fix them accurately. So we're looking to basically just enhance our current business. There'd be no additional traffic, like Karen said. It's usually 1 or 2 vehicles at a time that would come in for service. It's usually a one-day type of service that they would require. None of it is heavy mechanical. We're not set up to do any heavy mechanical. The vehicles themselves have 2 different warranties. They have chassis builder warranties, like Mercedes, Ford, Chrysler. Those repairs are actually done at a dealership. We would not be doing anything in that nature. So what we're looking to do is basically perform mainly cosmetic, electrical, AC, and light repairs that you yourselves could do in your own driveway within our facility under a name of Luxury Limousine Sales and Service. So that's pretty much what we're trying to do.
Question. So you would only be working on your own vehicles?
We'd be working on the vehicles of the people in our industry and our own vehicles, yes.
Okay, and when you say there wouldn't be any additional traffic, wouldn't that generate additional traffic?
It wouldn't seem to generate additional traffic because most livery operators, they're going to bring you 1 car at a time. We're already operating 23 on site, so 1 additional limo pulling in or pulling out, no one would think of it as odd or an increase in traffic.
And in terms of the vehicle sales, would it be specifically, again, the same limos?
Specifically livery vehicles within our industry, yes.
What does that include?
That would be luxury town cars, stretch limousines, converted Mercedes Sprinters, SUV stretch limousines, and converted buses. Right now the bus market is very, very big as far as the party bus interior. We're one of the only operators in the area that actually offers this type of service, and it's very, very popular nationwide, and there's a lot of people in this area looking to develop that market as well. So they're looking to purchase.
Those are all vehicles that are currently on the
And they're currently on the site.
Okay. Mr. Wood?
I don't really have a problem. I think it's a good use of the buildings. I mean, this shows you that, shows us, I think that each building is separate, and 1 more vehicle a day is not going to change anything. The only other thing here was, you said something about motorcycles.
That's just part of your classifications, but that's nothing that we have any
Okay,
interest
so yours
in.
will just be the town cars, which you call luxury, and the limos, and the party buses, or the buses.
Or stretch SUVs, like
Okay.
Cadillac Escalades, things that are very specific to our industry.
It'd be no different maybe a different quality than another vendor across the street.
Actually, it's quite different. We don't have the vehicles that he has, and his business is primarily buses of a forward-facing seat, large capacity mover. We're more niche market. We're definitely more on the upper scale side of the industry itself.
Can you give us an idea of the type of customer you service?
Currently,
Yes.
the celebrities that come to the Hanover Theater are in our vehicles.
Okay.
VIPs and CEOs of major national corporations, top 100 companies. 50% of what we do is corporate road shows in the Boston and 495 market. They're multi-day itineraries with same driver and same vehicle. Our business average is about $3 million a year, so it's very much a niche market.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And your additional customer base from the increased would be just limited within the industry?
That would be limited within the industry, yes.
Okay, including the sales and
Yes.
service. Okay, question. You're operating with 2 other existing variances on the property. Are they, which buildings are they in?
Okay, so looking at the DHL, the former DHL building at 224, Bay State Chair and Dance is in the front rectangle.
220?
224.
Oh, so they're in the existing,
They're in the office
they're in the
spot.
existing building.
And adjacent to Bay State Chair and Dance is La Lemo, and they've been operating for 2 years now, side by side, in a very compatible manner. The other use variance was to J.R. Thomas CrossFit, and that is located in 577 Hartford Turnpike, which again is its own standalone building to the left of the main driveway.
The other side of the property.
It is, and again, this is an industrial park that is, it's not a subdivision in that sense. These are all individual buildings that could be sold individually to a third party.
I have a question in regards to where your for sale vehicles will be stored and how many will be stored on the property at a given time,
Absolutely.
and how you advertise the vehicles and what market are you trying to...
Absolutely. The vehicles currently could be stored on the back side where it says 12 oversized vehicles. Currently, we're utilizing 10 of the stretch limo parking spaces in the front, so I have 5 open spots there. I also have 10 additional spots in the front that we let use for employees, visitors, or some of the smaller units like the town cars and SUVs. I currently only have 23 vehicles in service. The site will allow me to hold up to 40 maximum with my interior space and all of my exterior parking. So there's no current site restrictions as far as size, and we're only looking to bring probably 2 or 3 at the most as far as new vehicles on site as a dealer. Most people actually attend our National Limousine and Trade Association shows and BusCon shows. At that point, they meet the dealers or they meet the manufacturers. The manufacturers then put them in touch with their local dealer who actually does the transaction, takes the vehicle in on delivery, preps it, details it, makes sure every light works, makes sure every component works, and then the final sale and delivery is actually done at the dealer's location. So that's pretty much the scope of how it works within our industry. We advertise online, we advertise in trade magazines and periodicals, and it's also a lot of word of mouth. We've been in business since '86, so a lot of people know who we are, even on the national level, because I do attend the shows. So it would be very easy to just be able to sell within my own market.
What if you were limited by the amount of vehicles you could store for sale?
Again, most of the manufacturers build to order, so most dealers in my industry don't hold a lot of inventory on site. It's very different from a
But would you
regular
be
dealer.
selling used vehicles?
We could take vehicles in on trade, yes, but again, it would be a one-for-one. It would be a one-for-one. And with the used vehicles, we do have a lot of outlets to sell those nationwide too. We do ship a lot overseas. There's a lot of buyers overseas that buy vehicles and actually have them driven down to New Jersey and put on boats and shipped away.
So you're saying there won't be much of a storage of vehicles
No.
on the property?
No,
And if we were to put a limit on the amount of vehicles?
that would be fine.
You say
Is
you
that
have,
something we can do?
just to follow up on use or limit, you say you have up to 40 available?
The space will hold up to 40 livery vehicles between all the different spaces we have, and I'm only currently operating under my livery 23.
Plenty of room left.
Yeah.
And those are stored inside?
No, most of them are stored outside. My vintage, my antiques, my 59 Caddy, my 60 Rolls, those are kept inside. The Mercedes in the wintertime are kept inside. My trolley is going to be kept inside because it's so big, and once the snow comes, we need to keep it inside. So we utilize our interior space more in the winter months, and then in the summer months, we keep the doors open and everything's outside.
To the repairs, you said that it's mostly light repairs?
It is light
What-
repairs.
What type of repairs don't you do? What would,
We don't have a lift.
okay.
So we don't have drain catcher separators. We can't do anything that's large.
That's what I was going to ask. There's nothing with any type of
No,
hazardous?
I don't have any type of machinery. Everything that we do is light repairs. Again, things that you could do with your own car in your driveway up on jack stands is pretty much what we're doing at our site.
Do you do oil changes and
We
things
do
like that?
oil changes to our own fleet.
And where does that oil go?
The old oil is actually stored in a 50-gallon drum on property, and Lammy Automotive in Northborough comes and takes it and uses it in his used heating oil furnace to heat his building. And we actually have a chain of custody on that as well, stating when he comes and takes it and how much he takes.
Will most of the repairs be done inside?
Yes.
There might be an occasion where you change a light bulb and you're outside, but that's
Right.
pretty minor.
Right.
Okay.
You're,
I'm all set.
I'm good.
I'm all set. And there is no one in attendance, so we will take it under advisement. You'll be
No
notified.
one. There's a gentleman back there.
Gentlemen?
Thank you very much.
I couldn't see him.
Thank you.
Okay, in order. Oh, actually, before we do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we go through new business, old
That's
business,
what I was going to do.
correspondence,
Yep, that's,
Michelle can get on
that's
her
where I
way.
was going exactly right now. New business is 427 Main Street would be the Simonelli hearing of last month on the swimming pool. We have a request for a withdrawal. I was recused from that. I would need to recuse myself from this.
I don't think there's any discussion. They just sent in a letter requesting withdrawal. Might want to take a vote that we approve.
Yeah, I
that
can't do
withdrawal.
anything with it, though.
Also of note, they did submit a building permit that does comply with the setbacks to build a pool, so that process is going forward now.
Do we need Lisa here, or do we need?
No, we don't need her here.
So it could be the four-person board?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion on the withdrawal for, what number Main Street?
427.
427 Main Street.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Do we get a vote sheet on that? Okay. Meeting schedule. Do you have in your packets two proposed meeting schedules? Are these, you want to give us a little?
Sure. The zoning board has historically been meeting on Tuesday evenings. However, the Board of Selectmen has just switched their, they were testing out a 6-month window if Tuesdays would be better than Mondays for them, and they've decided in 2012 that they would like to go forward with Tuesday evenings. I have some commitments on Tuesdays in 2012 and would wish to move the meetings to Monday nights both so I can attend the Board of Selectmen on Tuesdays and my other commitments, and so we don't conflict with rooms and those things. So I just wanted to get the flavor of the board if they were okay with moving the meetings to Mondays. We do have a draft application deadline and meeting dates for both Tuesday and Monday.
I only have one question. Michelle, what day will you give us our packets so that we have adequate time to review them?
I try to send it the week before, so it'll then be sent on Mondays rather than Tuesdays if we switch to a Monday meeting.
Is that a problem for you?
No.
I have no problem with Monday.
Anyone else? You guys are okay? With
Sure.
Monday?
I will probably have some conflicts, but I can't say, looking at the calendar, that I'm on which days I will, but I'll anticipate having 2 or 3 conflicts on Mondays.
I have conflicts on Tuesday, but we're talking Monday. So I'm all set.
And just so you know, the Board of Selectmen had on their agenda this evening to discuss having another alternate member appointed to the board, so we should hear within the next few weeks. So we have someone to replace Mr. Holland.
Perfect. Perfect.
So scratch Tuesday.
Scratch Tuesday. We'll go to the Monday schedule.
And 6:30 is still okay?
6:30 is, I think that's been working great. Old business, variance and special permit discussion. You want to hold that off?
Let's do that next meeting.
Yeah, okay. And now back to our decisions.
I have a question for you too. Are you using Windows, a newer Windows version? Because sometimes I don't get the attachments. Well, as you saw today, I don't get the body of the message.
I know that I switched from Microsoft 2003 or 2008 back up to the new version 2010. I know with Lisa, I had an issue. Her calendar was set to Pacific time rather than Eastern time, so she thought the meeting was at 4 rather than at 7 when I sent her a meeting invite. So I'll make sure that I'm specific within the body of my email when I send a calendar invite or something like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. Let's go back. 57 Purinton Street. It's the front porch. Any discussion?
Looks good.
Looks good to me. Mr. Riley had a lot of trouble when they were building senior housing behind him, but he's a very nice man, and I think he's got a regular hardship.
Yeah. I thought he exhibited hardship as well.
In the weather
Yeah.
conditions.
Is that okay? Okay. Make a motion?
Make a motion to vote on the, what is that, Puritan?
57.
57 Puritan.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? First Shrewsbury Hotel Investments, 889 Boston Turnpike.
I think it's reasonable.
I think it's too. I think the change in the bylaw addressed what most people's concerns were. People can't stay past 60 days. They can't use it as a legal residence or address.
Yeah, and it still is a hotel.
Right. Yeah.
And the condition would be that 20% of the units would be set aside for.
No more than.
No more than 20%. Yeah. Motion.
Make a motion to approve the 889 Boston Turnpike.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's the Puritan. Mr. McNeil,
All
679.
of his clients show up at one time and
Yeah.
park in his driveway.
I didn't see that as a big
Nobody will
issue.
ever know that they're there.
Yeah, I didn't see a big issue there at all. Again, it's a use that's allowed by special permit. He's under the 25% coverage of the internal use. Special the only conditions I would, no on-street parking would be the only condition.
Yeah.
The question is, do we want to do a time limit?
I don't see a reason to, but there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
I think maybe to appease the...
Yeah, I would do it just to...
Who had some concern.
I would do 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
Yeah, I think 3 years
3 years?
is good compromise.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
3 years and
So we'll make sure the sunset
No
clause
parking.
and all of those.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
but
what I asked.
sunset with his ownership.
That's what I was going to ask,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion?
move to approve with conditions.
Second?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think I have, haven't I? Tried to cheat me out of my space.
I started.
Mr. Bonaventura, 15 Connor Drive.
I think what he's doing is very nice.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it when it was too large, but it's really not a large house. And it will be
Right, it's...
plus for the neighborhood.
He's staying within the side yard.
Right, and if you've got these neighbors to agree,
Right.
you have done a major job.
He's got a hardship on topography.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's 2 motions here. They withdrew the
Right.
3-story. There's a special permit for turning the
For the demolition.
for the demolition of the pre-existing non-conforming structures.
We don't need the variance for the height, correct?
Correct, and then the variance for the block coverage.
Move we do those 2.
What's that?
I said, well, move we do those 2.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the special permit and the variance on lot coverage?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Mrs.
No, this
McNeil.
is-
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
there's only one there, yeah.
I'm
Next
checking every time now.
is the credit union. 714, 716 Main Street. I believe they have a hardship imposed upon them by the
Right.
federal government.
Yeah.
Two here. I don't think there's anyone else that have anything to discuss on this one.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, there's two of them. One is for the variance for the lot coverage, and the other is the front yard setback. So I'm assuming we're
Move to
voting on
approve
both.
both.
Yeah. Mr. Sohi, we continue to our next meeting.
I would like to add one thing to that.
Sure.
I would request that Mr. Sully be present.
Okay, reasonable.
These arguments,
Yeah.
the neighbors seem to have concerns that I'd like to see addressed.
Right.
And I will also check the entrance issue.
The number of
if we can
entrances.
do a
Okay.
requirement.
Right.
Okay.
condition on that.
Grab the new one.
Two heads. You can do chew gum and walk at the same time?
Confused.
Okay, next is, I believe last, is limousine, FOCO.
I see it's a nice increase. It's a niche business in the industrial park. It is a use variance. There are two other use variances, but as she said, each building is separate. Each opportunity is separate. This is nice, it's clean, and we will get revenue from all sorts of things.
What thing?
Beginning of the year, vehicles, sale of vehicles, excise tax. I'm in favor of it. What can I say?
My concern is, there's three use variances on the property. It's limited industrial.
But it's a huge piece of property. So, although I know some of us are opposed to use variances, each one has got to be looked at separately.
But where does it end?
I don't know where it ends. I don't know where it ends.
I mean, it's a great business.
You can end it anytime you want, but this is a commercial business. We're trying to encourage commercial businesses to come, whether they come by use variance or special permits. They're clean businesses. We can't really bring businesses in because of the limitations we have. And here's one that wants to expand.
Yeah, I think we should help them.
I think we should help them expand also.
Yeah. I don't see that it affects other use variances. I think, as the chairman said earlier in the evening, that we have to consider each of these on their own merit.
Its own merits. And I think this one has merit.
Yeah.
Well, I know my feeling on it, and if it was in a different circumstance,
Where would you have it?
it's not up to me to decide where it goes. It's up to them.
But this particular use is compatible with this.
Yes. Yes.
In what
You
way?
know, how is it not compatible?
It's not compatible because limited industrial is not meant, and again, there's already two variances on the property, but it's not meant to bring public to the site.
How do you see the public coming to the site?
Yeah, I don't see public, I
I
mean,
don't see the public coming to the site.
yeah, it's not like they have to sell, a quota of 100 limos a month. I don't see that happening.
Is there any way to condition it that the vehicle, they're represented, the vehicles were industry vehicles. Is there any way to condition it?
Well, let me just check their documentation. That they cannot sell,
Any vehicle that was not
Any
used as a
commercial-
livery vehicle?
right, yes.
And the same with repairs. They cannot repair any vehicle that does not have livery plates.
That's what he's called.
Or intended to have them. I mean,
No, no.
If you got a brand, if you got a.
Well, if you have a brand new vehicle, they wouldn't
brand
have a
new vehicle,
plate.
it wouldn't have
Right.
a plate.
But that wasn't,
So we're
would be
saying,
repaired, a brand new vehicle.
Well, it would need maybe detailing preparation.
Okay.
That'll have a.
So just livery, I can't speak.
Livery?
Livery purposes.
livery vehicles repaired and sold only? Is that what we're saying?
That's what she said.
Okay.
He said, she said.
Okay. And the limitation is up to 40 vehicles on the lot. Basically.
What's
That's
that?
the-
Right, so they
that's-
have, well, they have 23 existing vehicles on the lot. They proved to us in their site plan that they can fit 40 vehicles on the lot. So we asked about, are they okay with limiting the amount of vehicles, and they had no problem with that.
Yeah,
So I would
so-
say that 40 would be fair,
So
in my opinion.
limited to 40
Limited to-
without their coming back,
Without what?
without their coming back with another hearing.
That includes vehicles for sale and their own vehicles.
Correct.
Total vehicles.
Total vehicles.
Yep.
Again,
Total livery.
Total, right, total livery
Total
vehicles.
livery vehicles. We're all gonna be confused. Well, because I'm confused all the time anyway.
And you want to limit the activity to the sale and repair of that kind of vehicle.
Yes.
Livery vehicles.
Yeah.
And I guess condition.
Hours of operation or anything was stated.
It's in a commercial, a limited industrial, what's the difference?
Besides that,
It's
if
not-
your
they're not near
if
any
a client
towns.
calls you and says, I want you to pick up someone at a plane at 4 o'clock in the morning, a private plane, you call a driver to come in and pick up somebody at the plane.
Yeah.
So I would think it would have to be 24/7.
Operate the limo business, but what about for repairs and sales?
Oh, no, repairs and sales should be limited to whatever, they didn't give us a time. They didn't give us a time.
The dealer license has
The
time.
dealer license is
To be consistent with the license
Then,
that the
okay,
Board of
yeah.
Selectmen issued.
Consistent with,
Okay. Peter's got something else he wants to tell you.
what's that?
Peter's got something else he wants to say.
I was just gonna, we're gonna limit when they can repair the vehicle, using Mel's example.
Well, the Board of Selectmen limits it based upon the license, so we would just be consistent with their license.
Okay.
So we just make our
That makes
decision
sense.
consistent with the Board of Selectmen's license.
Okay, that's fine,
license.
that's fine. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay.
Because then if the Board of Selectmen makes a change, they don't have to come back to us and make that change as well, we'll just be consistent.
Understood. That's fine.
Okay, how's it sound so far?
So we have, we cannot sell or repair non-livery vehicles, limit livery vehicles to 40 on site, and repair and sales time, hours of operation should be consistent with the Board of Selectmen license.
Okay. Do we need to define, I guess we don't, I was gonna say livery vehicle being those that have livery tags or intend to have livery tags?
I don't know how to get that
Yeah.
specific.
Okay. So I wanted to keep
I'm
it, they're
sure-
represented to the industry, so we can
Right.
get specific without making it an enforcement nightmare. Okay, motion?
Move to approve with conditions as specified.
Second.
Okay. Let's do it one at a time. First is the variance, section 6, table 1, as garage and repair shop, again, as stipulated. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Next is sales room for It says here automobiles and motorcycles.
Right, because that's the definition under the use table,
Okay.
but we're
But we're
obviously
further
being very
limiting it.
specific in the conditions.
Okay,
so-
again, as limited by our conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
That it?
Well, as soon as we get these sheets back.
So we will be having a November meeting.
We will be having a November meeting. Just to review, Central 1, 714, 716 Main Street has been unanimously approved.
The November meeting is when?
November 29th.
15 Connor Drive,
So that's on Tuesday night.
special permit. Yeah, it's not till next year that it starts. And variance unanimously approved. 679 South Street has been unanimously approved, which is the home permit approved with conditions. The hotel extended stay has been approved unanimously.
I checked that.
57 Puritan Street, the front porch has been unanimously approved. 103, 101 North Quinn Sigmund Avenue. Variances for frontage, lot area, and side yard setbacks have been unanimously approved. And you need to read this one.
The petition for 6 High Ridge Road, Shrewsbury, for a rear yard setback for in-ground pool has been defeated.
Okay.
Well, 2 on this one.
You just have to go second.
The limousine service has been approved. Sales
To adjourn?
and repairs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just gotta be careful.